He's like, you have this persona that either you're going to love or you're going to hate. And I was like, well, if they can tell immediately that they're going to hate me, that's a good thing. I know it's not going to work and we can move on.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm joined by Kristina Karcic, the founding member of Karcic Partners, a leading name in employee experience and workspace transformation. At RevGen AI, we build AI automated outbound and thought leadership content systems for B2B founders. And this show is where we're spotlighting growth-minded leaders, driving innovation in their industries. Today, we're going to explore how Kristina and her team are creating impact, scaling growth, and shaping the future of employee experience and leadership development. Kristina, it's great to have you.
Hey, it's so great to be here.
Great. Let's jump in. So you mentioned that you're reinventing the workspace and how SMBs and mid-market companies should look at, their workforce. Can you walk us through what inspired that mission and how you're approaching it differently?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things that inspired it. First and foremost, throughout my 20 plus years of HR experience, I've always been on the leading edge of transformation. When I first entered the workforce, and I saw how tactical it was. And I'm not going to lie, for the first 2 years, I contemplated, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, this is awful. Because I went into HR thinking, okay, well, I can take the experience I have in business and continue learning the business and applying psychology and human behavior and really focusing on humans, the employee experience and culture. And when I got there and we were still tactical, it was like, wait, what are we doing? But because of that, I really went back to school. I learned how we could be that true business executive, business partner first, passionate about everything talent. So with that said, over the last 20 years, I've worked for big organizations, small organizations, always with the thought and mindset, how do we enable our business, right? And in the last 10 years, I focused primarily in startup, and I love it. So it gave us an opportunity to come in and really get creative with what we were trying to do. There was a lot of things that we did really great, but there was also a lot of things that we needed to look back and learn upon. With that said, about a year and a half ago, I decided to go do something different. And there's this fractional that is exploding. Everybody's in it. I said, okay, well, I've done consulting before. Let me jump into this and see what I can make of it. And I really took some time to reflect on again, what I was saying, where there's the wins, where there was opportunities. And I ended up taking a short sabbatical because I was like, wait, there's a lot more that we could be doing now with the surge of AI, right? And how do we get ahead of it so that we truly use AI as an enhancer and not a replacement? And I think this is a critical moment for us to jump in. But then it also gives us the ability to jump in and solve for issues that have been existing for a while. And VC and PEs are dying for a solution. And what that is if anybody's been in the startup world, it doesn't necessarily just apply to startups, but when you think of any type of SMB business that's looking to grow, you run into these issues, right? Because capital is a constraint. So you can only hire people that can take you so far. And then you have to rebuild. And when you rebuild, you lose a piece of the culture. You lose a piece of the intellectual knowledge that exists. And some companies can figure this out well enough that it's just a little dip in production, it goes back up. But the majority, this is where everything starts to erode. Honestly, creep comes in, right? Toxic culture creep. And it starts to erode. And then by the time you're doing your third or fourth rebuild, you've lost the essence of who you are. And unfortunately, with founders, typically founders are visionaries. So how do we protect founders so that they're not there for a phase or two, but they're there for the longevity of their organization? So with that sabbatical, what I did was really focused. I was very fortunate to work with really great minds at McKinsey, at Accenture. Take that thought leadership and how do we apply it to a growing organization? Because there are fundamental things we need as a foundation to build a strong house. But we have to be mindful, the sooner we can do it, the better. So what does that mean? That means making sure that we facilitate a strategy conversation that's going to end up in an actionable strategy. Because strategy then allows you to build structure. And I stay away from the word process because for me, process then sometimes just becomes a process, right? We want to stay away from that. We want agility and innovation. So you build frameworks so that you can unleash that. So that means thinking through your IT and security infrastructure from the start, making sure that you have these centers of excellence because we all know what happens. Everybody develops their own. data's a mess. You can't really get any insights. Like we all have lived there, done that, right? You understand what you're trying to build and build a culture intentionally. And I know you're going to hear people that say, oh, is culture a real thing? Yes, but it's complex. It's taking the strategy, the operating model, your talent philosophy, your org design, your values. Also, when we think of values, why aren't we thinking about our leadership values? People leave leaders, not organizations, right? So I know I'm going in many different directions, but it's very complex and you need somebody who's been there, done that. And as HR professionals, if we truly have led with that transformation and led with that evolution, we are business executives first, passionate about everything talent. And why do I say that? Because we have a unique opportunity to see every organization in its totality and be that true consultative partner in building. All that to say that my company has taken AI and used it as an enhancer. We're actually in the process of building our own AI agent so we can come in as AI native and we work to establish that foundation for scalability and growth sustainably. And by doing that, we hope that number one is a capital protector. So we're not coming in as a cost center, but we're coming in to really secure that capital and make sure your operating costs that used to take all that money from your growth engine and your R&D. No. Most importantly, you're not taking away from those critical elements that need investment. And we didn't have this before, but now we have an opportunity. So that's what I mean by reinventing. I think for back office, it's going to look very different, but it's up to us to get in front of this and be able to show how we can still impact and how we can use AI as an enhancer. And if we don't, it's going to be like anything else in technology advancement, right? We pivot too much and then we have to bring it on back. So let's stop making mistakes and just do it right from the beginning.
Yeah, I love that because I think, I agree with you completely. I think we've seen in the world how everybody's tried to adopt AI really, really fast. And then we've seen that there's just things that AI can't do, that it can't replace humans in some ways, but it can enhance us. Right. And so I really love the idea of focusing on, how do we enhance what we already do with AI instead of trying to replace ourselves, and also really retain that human feeling. That's something that we focus on, as well as how do we leverage AI to keep things personal and build scale with AI, but not lose that feeling, that human touch in the meantime. I am curious because like you mentioned a lot of different things. How does this actually look in practice when you work with founders or VCs? Like how does AI fit as an enhancer rather than a replacement with your system?
In many different aspects. First and foremost, when we think about the tactical part of HR, and that's employees coming and saying, hey, does my benefits cover this? Hey, based on this policy, can I do this? Can I do that? Now, if you have the foundation, you have the structure, you have your policies, you have a handbook, you have your benefit documents stored in one place. You can build an AI agent, obviously, I'm sure you know, to basically be able to serve that layer, that first layer of information gathering that a human doesn't need to be there to go through. An AI agent can turn that around really quickly. So this way, your team members are always engaged. They always have a place to go when they have these questions and they don't have to, we used to say, oh, we're going to teach you how to fish. You don't have to fish. You simply ask the question and it's delivered. So that takes a lot off of an HR person's plate, is to have those simple questions asked, right? And be able to get those answers to. So that's first and foremost. Then it's about making sure that AI is built into your organization responsibly. First and foremost, working with IT and security to make sure that you have the right AI tools, that you're protecting your proprietary information. Your employees know what they can use AI for, what they can't use AI for. That's really critical. And then how do you look at all your processes and see how you can enhance them? So say, for example, let's talk about in HR, right? Giving feedback. It can be an amazing enhancer, but people have to be taught how to do this, because the last thing anyone wants to do is talk to a computer through a human's lens. Basically meaning I'm a manager. I'm going to throw everything in there. It's going to spit an answer and now I'm just going to repeat it. No. right? It's able, like, so say, for example, you do 360 reviews. Great. This is an objective way to have someone else look at the reviews and give a perspective. But then as leaders, that's our job to then go through and humanize it and say, okay, well, it got this right. It didn't get this wrong. Hey, let me dive a little deeper here. But that work that used to take hours now takes maybe 30 minutes. So there's no excuse. I don't have time for it. You have time for it, but utilize AI as the enhancer for that. And that goes with everything from, and I'm talking HR, but engagement surveys to performance reviews to providing feedback, making sure that feedback's clear. And now it even allows us to become more human. And what I mean by that is we all have different communication styles. And before, it was up to us to try to figure out what was the right style. I'll actually give you a perfect example. My son is interning for me and he's helping me with a couple of things. And he's very technical engineer persona, right? Very different from who I am. And we were definitely coming in and like having a conflict because I was asking him to do something, it wasn't happening or it was happening the wrong way. And I had to look internal, which all leaders should. And I was like, I am the problem. So now I go into AI and I say, okay, here's what I need done. Can you please put this in a structured format for someone who has an engineer persona that's going to enable them to action on this? And it did. And I gave it to him and I was like, how's this? He's like, this is beautiful. All of a sudden, the work is getting done. I gave several examples, but they can be used in many different ways to uplift us and allow us to be more strategic in the work that we're doing. And especially in SMB and mid-market, not get sucked into the chaos and the reactiveness, which is really critical because that's where everything starts to break down.
Yeah, I really love how you focus on the outcomes when it comes to actually helping the processes that are so essential and learning how to utilize these tools to actually be effective. In terms of the outcomes that are most important for your clients, what frameworks or metrics typically matter most?
There's a lot. And you know what? I don't mean to always bring it back to the strategy, but it's such a critical element because you don't want to be reporting on something that's not relevant. So the strategy, instead of saying it just comes back to the culture, it's important to go back to the strategy because what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to unlock within your team? Right? Then you can start to build those elements of the culture, the values, everything I spoke about before. But when it comes to frameworks, it's about then tying it back to that. So to make it more tangible, say for example, you're creating an organization where you want to be really customer obsessed, right? Your customer feedback is really, really critical. And you want to make sure that your employees are close to that, right? In that type of environment, you really want to develop a people first organization. And you're probably saying, like, what does one have to do with the other? It absolutely, when this is done right, you put the time and commitment into your employees, you start to build a community, and I'm telling you, they will do everything for your customers because you tied it all in really well. So why am I bringing it up? How does this tie back to insights? So what's going to be really critical is ensuring that collaboration is high within your organization. There's a sense of commute that they have within your organization. They feel empowered. Those are insights that you're going to want to start collecting. And yes, they're soft insights, but they're important insights, right? But then you're also going to want to start looking at your customer churn, your employee churn, because they are one and the same, right? You want to make sure that you retain your employees so you retain your customers. So then it goes deeper and then it starts connecting with the business. I apologize that I couldn't give you just a simple answer, but it shouldn't be a simple answer because it should be tied into what you're trying to achieve.
I agree completely. It all comes down to the outcome that you're trying to achieve. And from there, we develop the strategy and then we create the actual metrics that we can measure against. And I love how both tactical you are in terms of how you look at things, but also it's clear that you add that element of human experience when it comes to an actual workplace that functions well and supports this long-term vision. I'm curious about how you're implementing this kind of thinking internally in terms of how you're approaching your own marketing and your own client acquisition. Like, what is working best in terms of how you approach that?
Being my true, authentic self. I think that's really, really important. I'll be honest with you, one thing that I hate, and it happens in every organization, but I hate politics. I hate putting on a face. Like, I'll be honest, when you see me, who I am now is who you get when I'm internal. I am who I am. unapologetically. And yet I'm always constantly learning. But I think that's the biggest thing is just being who I am and accepting of that. It's really funny because I was talking with a marketing professional while I was like building my messaging and so forth. It's really great. And he, gave me some of that advice, like stay authentic. But he said, he's like, you got to be prepared. He's like, you have this persona that either you're going to love or you're going to hate. And I was like, well, if they can tell immediately that they're going to hate me, that's a good thing. I know it's not going to work and we can move on.
I can tell. And I think that having that kind of persona that really brings energy and brings authenticity can be so valuable and be so necessary when it comes to dealing with different environments that can erode that feeling. And so having someone who feeds that constant, culture is extremely valuable. What has been some challenge or something that you're facing in terms of your growth and finding new companies that you can work with?
I think the first challenge that I encountered was as soon as I embarked on this new journey, my first thought is, okay, I have to go out and I have to acquire, I have to acquire I have to acquire clients. So used to being on internal. And so I went to start running and thank God there was a company that I was advising for and I was utilizing them and we were talking about this openly because it's always great to have somebody to bounce things off of. And they were like, wait, hold up. Christina, are you telling me that you're about to embark on your new journey and you're not applying your own playbook? And I go, oh my God. So, like, the first challenge that I had was I was all over the place because I did not have a strategy. And so I had to pull it back and say, okay, I'm going to take myself off the market for a moment. I'm going to focus on what it is that I will provide. And then how am I going to get there? And where should I focus? Because I need to practice what I preach. So that was the first challenge. And honestly, I think just like anyone, I always hate this metaphor, but it's like eating your own dog food, right? I know we tried to change it in the industry, sip your own champagne. I don't, whatever you want to say, but we're some of us as practitioners, we're so good at being able to transfer that knowledge to others, but not sometimes internalize it.
I ask this question a lot and I get creative answers. If you had a magic wand, what's one thing that you'd change in your business right now to make your own growth easier?
You know what? That is a really great answer. And honestly, I know I wouldn't. And the reason being is I do a lot of deep thinking and about the world and, our place in it and all of that. And the truth is anything that you achieve comes from going through the journey, right? And there's no shortcuts. And you have to feel the pains to be able to feel the glory, right? To feel the success of what you achieved. So it's hard. I talk with founders all the time. And the really funny thing is that everybody says the same thing. I thought at first it was just me. It's like a 3-day cycle. And you're smiling because I think you're going to appreciate this, right? It's like 2 days of being on high. Like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Da, da. And then third day of a crash. Like, nothing is going to happen. This is going to fail miserably. And picking yourself back up and saying, okay, I got this. Let me do this. So it wouldn't change anything because it's all part of the learning. And I don't want to skip out on any of that learning.
I think so much of it, and we can talk about strategy, we could talk about tactics, we could talk about metrics all day. It's so much of being in business is about your mindset and having the long term mindset and being able to keep yourself going, keeping yourself positive, keeping yourself seeing that vision. And so, yeah, that really came across from you, Christina. So thank you for sharing that and bringing that to the conversation today. For any listeners who want to connect or learn more about Achieve Engagement, where's the best place for them to find you?
Two places, either on my website, which is Karcic Partners, or find me on LinkedIn. Thankfully, I'm the only Christina with a K. Karcic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you.